Even though it's May 28th, we're starting off with our June programs from the Harwich Conservation Trust. And with me this morning is Matt Cannon, the land coordinator, and Michael Lach, the executive director. And we're going to start with the herring run. And can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there, Michael?
Yeah, thanks again, Paul, and everybody at Channel 18 for having us. You guys do wonderful work. You know, we're really at the tail end of our volunteer herring count. Matt's going to give you more details about that. I just wanted to paint a picture of what these incredible fish, river herring, may encounter during some or all of their life cycle. These river herring, right, we see them when they fighting their way upstream against the current, against all odds, literally, through the Herring River, that is the second largest river system on the Cape. You know, we see them making their way up the Johnson's Flume there at the westerly end of Bell's Neck area, West Reservoir. Well, you know, the story is much larger than that, right? Before they enter the Herring River, they are out in the open ocean. They're, you know, feeding and navigating without a smartphone. Right?
Well, how can they do that?
How can they do that, right? You know, without GPS, without a map, you know, in the open ocean, right? Being preyed on by larger fish, from sharks to many of our commercially and recreationally caught finfish like striped bass or bluefish. Very important part of the food chain, river herring are. You know, we'll see a map soon of their migration route. There you see it on the screen. Mm-hmm. So they're out there in the open ocean, and they come here right off our coast, jutting out into the North Atlantic, Cape Cod is. And here come the river herring in March-ish as the water temperature of our near-shore coastal waters begins to approximate the water temperature of that flowing out of these freshwater ponds through streams. And there they go up the Herring River there from Nantucket Sound, navigating, right, a much narrower area of water than swimming out in the open ocean, right, with really no major constraints on their movement. And they're swimming against the current. And they're having to deal with the gauntlet of herring gulls, right, at different points. A herring gull will swallow them whole in a matter of seconds. And they're making their way up to these freshwater ponds. So not only are they traveling a great distance, we don't know how they do it. They find their way back to these ponds where they themselves hatched, right? Okay. They're traveling up to these ponds. And what amazes me is they've traveled from a saltwater environment to a freshwater environment. So they're amazingly adaptive to that change as well.
The buoyancy changes.
It's incredible. And so then they lay eggs, right? The females lay eggs, the males release their sperm, fertilize the eggs. These eggs hatch. Then some of those young herring are consumed by other creatures in the freshwater and stream systems before they, as young, you know, little shiny juveniles, called herring fry, you know, sort of sparkling in the sun as they make their way down in July downstream out into the open ocean to mature, become adult river herring, and maybe a few years later make their way back up to their birth ponds where they've hatched out to start the life cycle over again. And this is happening for centuries or more. And here we are in our little chapter in Cape Cod history, witnessing it every spring. And we're very fortunate to have so many volunteers involved with the herring count. And Matt is the project leader with that herring count. He's done a wonderful job, and this is what some people see, right, Matt? Mm-hmm. I mean, looking down into that wonderful, clear Herring River water.
Thousands of fish.
Right?
Yes.
You can see them, Johnson's Flume, they usually hang out right there before they head up, and also at Hinckley's Pond where we count them, and we're up to over 14,000 fish that we've counted thus far.
How is that compared to prior years?
It looks a little bit up, but I can't say the exact numbers. Last year, we're probably at about 100,000 last year, so I would say it's similar size. The Association of Preserved Cape Cod, we give them our data, and then they use a formula, and they come up with an estimated run size. But it looks definitely the same, if not a little more than last year, which is good news.
It is.
And these volunteers are out every day, right?
Every day.
Every day.
9 shifts a day from April 1st to May 31st, so we're ending fairly soon. We had about 20 students from Harwich High School and about 40 other community volunteers. So a big group of people.
Very good. Now, where do they go to count these fish?
Hinckley's Pond, right at the entrance to Hinckley's Pond, off Headwaters Drive.
Yeah.
Was that? Where is that now?
That is 7 miles from the Nantucket Sound up the Herring River. So they've made it 7 miles before we count them, and then they'll make across Hinckley's Pond into Long Pond and Seymour Pond.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yes, and they go. I guess they go in other ponds that we don't even realize because the water system underneath the land is very active.
Well, you know, they're traveling through the surface water connecting streams, like, as Matt said, from Hinckley's to Seymour's and Long Pond. You've got Princess Brook that connects Hinckley's to Long Pond, and you've got the Cahoon Canal, that historic Cahoon Canal, connecting Hinckley's to Seymour's. And yeah, they're spawning in those ponds. You know, I think what's interesting too, you know, Matt said that, you know, the estimated run size from last year was, you know, around 100,000, and, you know, we might approximate that estimated run size based on the volunteer count data this year. But, and that sounds great, right? It sounds like an increase over the past few years during which these counts have taken place. But in the early 1900s, data shows from herring harvest, right in the same river system, that there was upwards of 1 million fish harvested.
Wow.
1 million fish harvested. So that's, imagine the run size above and beyond that number, because that was 1 million fish harvested, right?
Yeah.
Based on barrel weight and volume, and that estimated harvest amount extrapolated from that data. So still, the numbers are incredibly low. And that's why there's a statewide moratorium still in effect on the taking or possession or handling of river herring until we restore these populations.
I thought they could take 4 or 5 or something.
No, the moratorium's
No?
still in effect. There's an
Moratorium.
exception for Native Americans as part of their cultural background, but otherwise it's prohibited because the populations are really still very low. I mean, this is a fishery, a species at risk, and, you know, these volunteers being part of this annual herring count are really part of the effort to bring back this species from the brink. Can't be
Now,
overstated.
Is it possible that more are being eaten on the way up?
Well, you know, one of the biggest issues, and it's a controversial one, is the overfishing that takes place offshore, human consumption.
Yes.
These huge trawlers that will take up schools of fish
Yes.
in one swoop, and you can imagine how that decimates the population. And so groups like the Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance, formerly the Cape Cod Commercial Hook Fishermen's Association, have been actively trying to you know, create a more sustainable environment, fishing environment for this species, because they know how important it is
Yes.
in the ecosystem. So it's tricky. It's very tricky. It's trying to restore balance for a species that's had a tough time.
And you don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
Because of that. Well, that's true. Now, another very interesting topic is the land, particularly the 49 acres in East Harwich.
49 acres. Pleasant Bay Woodlands Project.
Right.
There's a great map. It really just speaks volumes, doesn't it? You see this 49 acres. And this really shows the building footprints around that area. You can see how developed that area is naturally, as a lot of the Cape is, you know, approaching build out, right, in the next few decades, because we live in a very popular, beautiful place. And areas such as this, so close to Pleasant Bay, are even more popular. So it's incredible that this 49-acre landscape has remained intact and undeveloped for all of these years. And we've been working on trying to secure an agreement with the owners for the past 10 years. And as you know, about a year ago, we were able to do so, giving us until this August of 2014 to raise $3.6 million. And because of the challenge in effect, which essentially matches every dollar donated to this effort, dollar for dollar, so it doubles everybody's gift. In addition to subsequent pledges, we have about $550,000 left to go. So that's pretty good. It's still a big number, but it's a lot less than $3.6 million. So $550,000 to go, and we are just trying to connect to anyone and everyone, and businesses and foundations that can help us move forward and meet that goal by August to preserve these 49 acres. Yeah.
Well, you get June, July now. You have to the end of August, or is there a date somewhere in between?
The purchase and sale agreement with the group of owners is on or before August 31st. So, you know, if we can raise the funds by August 1st, and we want to close this deal and move forward with our stewardship steps. You know, we want to get this done. I mean, you know, it's critical for the water quality of Pleasant Bay. It has seasonal surface water and year-round underground water flow that just feed right into Round Cove on Pleasant Bay. You know, if we don't preserve this land, it could become a subdivision of up to 40 lots. There's also wildlife habitat importance. It's within the contribution area to public drinking water supply wells that serve nearly 10,000 households across town. I mean, the list goes on and on. And Matt was out with a volunteer earlier this spring looking for vernal pools and found some evidence of their potential, which we're going to investigate further next spring when we actually obviously own the property. Hopefully this August if we raise the remaining $550,000.
When you raise it.
When we raise it. There we go. I like that. Glass half full approach.
Yes.
Yeah, and people should really check into our website, harwichconservationtrust.org, to learn more about this project, because there's some really interesting aspects, including the history of the land.
Oh, is there marshland out there too? Or
there's freshwater wetland.
Wetlands?
Yep, pockets of wetland and a lot of mostly upland, forested upland.
Now, these house lots, are these the only house lots that are in that property?
It could accommodate up to 40 under local zoning based on the engineering plan that we saw provided by the developers, a subdivision of up to 40 lots, and that was even under Cape Cod Commission review, believe it or not. But I mean, you know, properties like this, if it was pursued under a Chapter 40B subdivision, right, which is local zoning exempt essentially, could generate a much more dense building footprint. You could have far more units than 40 within that area. Now, of course.
Who owns the property now?
It's a group of owners, developers, who had other development designs for the area, and we have been talking with them over the years about a conservation alternative. And to give them credit, they have entered into this agreement with us to give us until August to raise the funds and make it happen. So,
how many of these groups are there?
There are 2 owners now. 2
owners now.
There were 3, but one of that third person passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what happened to his estate?
Boy, you're good, Paul. Jeez, I feel like I'm on Frontline or something. This is great. His estate will receive his third of the sale price. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So there's only 3. Well, that's and there's how many acres again?
49.
Oh.
Largest remaining undeveloped landscape in the entire 21,000-acre Pleasant Bay watershed.
Oh, okay.
Unbelievable.
I thought you were going to say entire Cape.
No. There's not many landscapes left of that size on the Cape, though. You bring up a good point.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we wish you well.
Thanks.
And I know that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And hope that the herring count meets your goal, Matt.
We'll find out, hopefully, at the end of the year. Association Preserve Cape Cod. they'll
Very
put
good.
together the report for us.
Good enough. So you can let us know next year.